Vice President dari Nissan Asia and Oceania, Vincent Wijnen. Hello, Mr. Vincent. Thank you very much for your time with CNBC Indonesia.
No problem.
And welcome to Indonesia, of course.
Thank you.
Okay, so first of all, something that really interests me is that Nissan just introduced your best-selling electric vehicle in Indonesia, the Nissan LEAF. So when will Indonesian customers be able to drive the Nissan LEAF home?
The Nissan LEAF will be launched in 2020, so 1 year from now. And we're very excited because I think it is a huge opportunity for us to show the type of technology that we as a company bring to the markets in the world, not just to Indonesia.
Okay, but do you think the market is ready for electric vehicle here in Indonesia?
Whether the market is ready or not, it doesn't matter, because if nobody starts, then the market will never be ready. So we believe, as that's also why we started with electric vehicles, we were the first manufacturer to seriously invest in mass production of electric vehicles. At that time, nobody else believed in it. I think we've proven our point, because now every other manufacturer either already has EVs or is starting to produce EVs. So we believe the markets will be ready as long as we bring the product to the market.
Okay, that's really interesting. And you mentioned earlier that the Nissan LEAF is, the best-selling electric vehicle. So can you share to us a little bit more about the features of this car?
Yeah, the car itself is a full electric vehicle, so battery powered. It is now in two versions available, which is a 40 kilowatt and a 62 kilowatt. That means that a car like this, for instance, can drive, depending on how it's used, has a range of about 300 kilometers, and with the 60 kilowatt, 400 to 500 kilometers. So range, like it used to maybe be in the past, is not an issue anymore, because the average person drives maybe 30, 40 kilometers per day. So an electric vehicle is an excellent solution for everyday driving.
Okay, so what is the difference between Nissan LEAF and other electric vehicle that is already here in Indonesia? Can you?
I think the biggest difference is that we have so much experience with electric vehicles. We've sold more than 400,000 in the world. We've driven more than 10 billion kilometers with electric vehicles. That means we have a wealth of experience in terms of what works and what doesn't work, but more importantly, how people can actually use an electric vehicle in day-to-day life. And that gives us a big advantage. Technically, we have a lot of features on the car that today other manufacturers don't have yet. For instance, we have an e-pedal. It's called e-pedal. That means you can drive the car with only one pedal. So acceleration and deceleration you can do with one pedal. You don't need a brake pedal anymore.
So wait, there's no brake pedal inside the Nissan LEAF?
There is still a brake pedal, but you don't need to use it. You only need to use it if you don't feel comfortable or you want to make an abrupt stop. But in general, you can drive 90% of the time with one pedal, which makes driving much more convenient, much easier. Because at the end of the day, electric driving is not just about zero emission, it is about the pleasure of driving. It is very silent, it is very smooth, the acceleration is immediate, so it's a real joy to drive electric vehicles. And with the technologies that we're building into these cars, the safety technologies and so on, it becomes a very relaxing drive for the individuals.
Okay, and you mentioned earlier that the Nissan LEAF, it enables you to drive without charging. Can you explain to us a little bit more about
The Nissan LEAF you still have to charge. But we will also bring, to Indonesia, the technology called e-Power. And e-Power is a fully electric driven vehicle, but it has a small engine on board that charges the battery. So you have all the benefits of electric driving, but you don't have to charge anymore. This car, the LEAF, is a full battery car, so that you still need to charge the battery.
Okay. Now moving on to infrastructure, in order for electric vehicle to be used massively in the Indonesian market, is that the important factor is infrastructure. So, what do you think should be done in terms of infrastructure at the moment in Indonesia?
Well, I think that where we've seen markets being really successful and implementing electric vehicles is there needs to be a minimum infrastructure, public charging, to allow people to move longer distances. But the charging for day-to-day use is in 95% of the cases solved by charging at home or charging at work. Because most of the time when people commute, they commute from home to work or back. And as long as you can charge at night at home or during the day at work, you can drive. You can drive anywhere. You don't need public charging. But of course, when you want to go, a little bit further, then it would be very convenient if you can charge somewhere along the way. And what we see is that governments that are investing in infrastructure, together with other partners, they make sure that you have charging at, for instance, at fuel stations. You have charging at shopping malls, so that you give more flexibility. It gives a peace of mind, but it is not so essential that you cannot launch the car. It's just a matter of, it makes it more accessible, and the market will grow faster if there's an infrastructure. So what we do is we work very closely together with governments, but also other stakeholders. Energy companies are very interested in infrastructure because it allows them, of course, to provide energy to consumers, not just to houses, but also to vehicles.
Okay, so where do you see the future of electric vehicle in Indonesia, for example, for the next 5 to 10 years from Nissan's point of view?
Well, it's very difficult to predict because it doesn't depend on Nissan only. It depends on, as I said, our stakeholders, but it also depends on our competitors, on our colleague manufacturers, because maybe it sounds strange, but we are not afraid of competition. We actually prefer more manufacturers to come with EV, because the more EVs on the road, the quicker the infrastructure will come. So in that way, it really depends, the acceleration depends on the combination of those two. And if you look around the motor show, I think you will find other manufacturers that are now talking about introducing electric vehicles or electrified vehicles, could be hybrids as well, to the market. And the more products will be brought to market, the quicker the infrastructure will develop. So that is the way it is. And we have many examples where a market has exploded by just the right infrastructure, the right investments. Like, for instance, Norway is the example in the world of the highest electrified market. But that was a very conscious decision of the government to make sure that they move very fast. I don't think that will happen everywhere, not at the same speed, but it will come. And we believe the future of driving is electrified. In whatever form, it will be electric.
So Nissan is saying that, electric vehicle is for the future.
It's the future. It is the future.
It is the
but it is the future today. It's the future today. The car is here.
Okay.
So you can use it today if you want.
Okay, so you're very optimistic in introducing your electric vehicle here in Indonesia,
Of course, we are optimistic.
Okay, now moving on to global strategy, in the middle of everything going on right now, global economy slowdown, trade war, Brexit, geopolitical situation. So what are the challenges and what are Nissan's global strategy for the upcoming years?
Yeah, no, our global strategy is not changing because of just economic situations. Of course, you need to adapt as a company, but from a strategy point of view, it's very clear. Our vision is that we want to bring products, mobility, cars, and technologies to as many people as possible. So what makes us, I think, unique is that we try to democratize as much as possible technology. So if you have, for instance, a technology, a safety technology, or we have in many of our cars, we have a round view monitor, which is a 360-degree camera that you can use to easily park and so on. We bring those technologies not just on expensive cars, we bring it down to basically the base model. So we want to give those technologies to as many people as possible. And we believe that is the future. We need to make technologies and products and including electrification available to as many people as possible.
So it's
that's our
technology
strategy.
and innovation.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, why would it only be for the happy few? We don't believe that is the future. The future is making mobility as easy as possible for people to access in whatever way, shape or form, but at the same time is to make it safer, smarter and more enjoyable to drive. And we believe with the technologies that we're bringing to as many cars as possible, this will ultimately make us successful as a brand, because and it's irrespective of how much volume you do and how many cars you sell in what market. But I believe that is where you need to be in the future, is to bring that innovation to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible.
Okay, and last one, Indonesia is a growing economy. How attractive do you think the Indonesian market is?
Well, Indonesian market is theoretically the biggest market in the region, in the Asian region, because of the number of people that live here. And if you just look at how also other markets have evolved in terms of motorization, you can only predict that the market will be the biggest market in the future. Today, I think the size of the total market is roughly the same as Thailand. Yeah, about just over 1 million cars. But in Thailand, the market is saturated. The number of cars per household is quite high, where here it's still quite low. So automatically it must become the biggest market in Asia, in the Asian region. So therefore it's very attractive for any manufacturer to make sure that you're present and that you invest in this market.
But at the same time, Indonesia is building our infrastructure.
Yes.
Now we have MRT, we have bus and everything. So
I don't think it's in conflict. I believe that you need a good infrastructure because you have many people living in very close spaces. This region, Asian region, is from a metro city evolution, it's the fastest growing region. Today, I think 50% of the population in Asia lives in cities, in big cities. That will be 75% by 2030, I think I understood. That means that there are going to be so many people living in such a small space. You need a good infrastructure for public transport. But I don't believe that people will let go of individual transport. And there's always the last mile. I don't think the BTS can bring you to your door in all cases. And there's still going to be individual needs for people to drive cars. So we are not afraid of that. It works hand in hand, I believe, infrastructure.
So Nissan is still very optimistic.
Of course.
Okay, that's great. Okay, thank you very much,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Vincent.
Thank you very much.
Baik, sekian wawancara eksklusif saya dengan Senior Vice President Nissan Asia dan Oceania. CNBC Indonesia, Beyond Business.